What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. And today is not necessarily an episode day, it's going to be a sub-assembly day. What we're going to do is we're going to look at my brake pedal and my gas pedal assembly. But before we get into that, if you can, take a moment, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, help me get this channel going a little bit further down the road. So what's sitting in front of me is basically everything that's going to go into my race car when it comes to the gas, the brake pedal, and I didn't say the clutch. And that's because one of the projects we're going to undertake with my car, we're going to convert to a hand clutch. We're not going to have it down in the pedal assembly. It used to be down in my pedal assembly, but I just decided I want to move my brake pedal to the left and get the clutch out of there. So that's something we'll cover in a later video as to how we're going to engineer that hand clutch. But for now, we're going to manage the install of the master cylinders, the bias bar, the brake pedal, and the gas pedal. So we'll get into that right now. So we're just going to start with my gas pedal here. You can see it's got this ear down here, and this is supposed to be a throttle return stop. So when it comes to the upright position, it hits this. What I have seen is I've seen debris get stuck under this, so we're going to cut that off, and we're just going to depend on a zip tie as a way of making my throttle return stop. So now that we've got that little nub cut off my gas pedal, we're just going to go ahead and simply install it into my pedal box. So now we've got the gas pedal installed, which is a simple bolt, and right now we've just got the static zip tie holding it in place. We're going to move on to the brake pedal. So one of the things you'll notice about my brake pedal is it's a lot smaller height-wise than my gas pedal. And here's why. Let's just talk about simple leverage for a second. If I pushed at the top of my gas pedal, I don't need to push as hard as I would at the bottom of my gas pedal. So what I did was I shrank the overall height of my brake pedal, so hopefully I can hit it at the repeated fashion, not changing the amount of pressure I need to put onto my brake pedal to impact my brake system. We're going to probably down the road make a better brake pedal and brake pedal assembly, but for now we're going to run this and see how it works and not let feature creep get in the way of me assembling my car. So considering we were talking about leverage with my foot, we should also talk about leverage with the balance bar. Now inside this little drum here is just this little spherical bearing. And what this bearing does is it slides inside this drum as I wind clockwise and counterclockwise with these threads. And what that will do is basically changes the amount of pressure from one master cylinder to the other, effectively changing my brake bias front and rear. But now that you've got a little bit of an understanding as to how this will work, let's just go ahead and put it together, and then you'll have a clear understanding of how this whole system works. So as you can see now with the bias bar installed, it has the ability to pivot inside of this mechanism. And what that will do is when I wind it one way, it's going to put more pressure on the right side master, or when I wind it the other way, it's going to put more pressure on the left side master. So besides the balance bar, we're also going to be changing the brake bias in the car by adding a smaller master cylinder to the front axle. That will increase the pressure on the front axle versus the rear, and help make sure that we always have a static bias towards the front of the car. So now that I've got the master cylinders and their boots onto my brake pedal assembly, I should talk a little bit more about the other modification I've done. Obviously you can see I've cut these boots, and that's because I'm going to incorporate these springs to help make sure that my brake pedal wants to return. These are going to sit over the shafts and try to press the brake pedal back towards me. Now, it's not a lot of spring pressure, so it's not going to be a major change to how my brake pedal feels, but it's just a little bit more than the internal springs in the brake master cylinders that if for whatever reason I get a little bit of a soft pedal, it won't hesitate to return so I can reapply the brakes. So there are a couple of key measurements you need to be making along the way, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about those right now. The most important one is understanding how to make sure the measurement of the width centerline to centerline on your balance bar for the contact points for the master cylinders is the same as the width of the master cylinders themselves. So for centerline to centerline, these are 2.5 inches apart. So I need to match from centerline to centerline on the pivot points that is 2.5 inches apart as well. So the other critical thing you need to do with the balance bar and brake pedal setup is make sure that the balance bar is parallel when you're at your max brake pressure, or as close to it as possible. So my balance bar is parallel now, and it would just be parallel as well when I get on the brakes. But when there's pressure in the system, we're actually going to get a little bit of English one way or the other because we're running 2 different size master cylinders. So what that means is eventually I'm going to have to check this when it's in the car, and I'm going to probably have it set up with a little bit of bias one way or the other. But what I'm hoping to achieve is at my maximum brake pressure that the bias bar is as level as possible. So there's one trick I like to use, and if you have your own trick, great. If not, feel free to use mine. So for the left and right master cylinders, I always go for the right one as the rear one, just because R, right, rear, you get it. It's one of those little simple tricks that if you're building a lot of cars and you have multiple setups and multiple pedal assemblies that you have to like troubleshoot on a moment's notice, keeping them the same and building them the same can save your butt some serious time in figuring out which ones go to the front and which ones go to the rear. So for me, the right master cylinders are always my rear master cylinders. So that's going to wrap up this short little video. I do solemnly swear I'm never going to use the headset for my GoPros ever again. But before we go, we do have a little bit of unboxing we're going to do real quick, show you guys what's up next. So we finally got the epoxy adhesive we need to properly bond on my front crash panels onto my car. Yes, we're gonna pop rivet them, but we're gonna bond them as well, and that's what we got here in the box today. For now, this is the end of the video. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and if you're interested in following along, please subscribe. But for now, have a great night. We'll see you with the next video.